from the deck. I mean, as Ciro was showing, his handsman is one of like, is not proactive, but it's not totally inactive either, it's just taking a breather. Some decks are not even illustrated, they haven't got person. So, how do you think that the timings would change?
I know somebody who does reading with he uses just the normal cards.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a Marseille pack, isn't it? The one, isn't it?
No,
you mean playing cards?
Yeah. He uses that and he gives the timings really, really accurate, which is incredible. I don't know how.
I think that's even better. I love that. I've seen that before.
It's so accurate, it's scary. He gives the day, sometimes he gives the dates exactly. Or he says, something, you ask a question and then he picks all the cards and then he says, okay, 10 or 12th of June, you're going to get some really big news. And you think, which news? It does happen. Or he says, he was doing a reading and he said, oh, 12, it was like, oh, there's a communication with that person. And then he's taking the other card and then he says, 12 days. And I was like,
I wonder if he's using the number.
12 days, I had an appointment, I had a meeting in 12 days. He said, so you've got 12 days with a break, you know that? And I said, yeah, I do. So I don't know how he uses the poker.
I wonder if he's using the numbering, because the poker cards are actually not, there's no majors, but there are correspondences to the tarot suits.
Yeah.
For example, and I hope I remember correctly, I believe hearts are cups, diamonds are pentacles,
yes,
spades are swords, and clubs are wands.
Yes. Yeah.
So maybe what he's doing is using the correlation and the numbering. So literally, it's very literally reading the numbers. So if he gets a 3 and a 4 and a 5,
yeah, because he adds up. Yeah, he does something like this. Because he adds so 12.
Yeah,
he counts them.
That's the numerology.
Maybe type of numerology. Could you? Oh, that's another question. Then we can. Could you use, or any of you use numerology together with tarot?
Yeah.
You do. How do you?
Well, it's the way I was taught by someone else. It was the ones mean the start of something, and if it's reversed, it's obstacles in the way. The 2 means if you draw it, like the 2 are like balance. The 3 is like the triangle, which means you're getting there. The 4 is like a box. So it means, of course, obviously the 3 is also the first stage of completion. Then you've got the 6, the second stage, the 9, the third stage, and then the 10, the completion. But then as you go on, it's going like to number, say 4, you think of 4 points, it's a box, but that's, and if it's the right way up, it means you're offered something, and if it's the wrong way, reversed, it's something, it means that you're not getting what you're hoping, and then the 5 and the 6 again, the 7 and the 8, and obviously goes up to 10, and that's how I was taught, because I did a workshop on using your intuition and looking at what the pictures say and the colours, and then I went to another course and learnt the numerology, and then I just put those together. So sometimes, when I'm doing a reading, if my mind goes blank, I'm like, Christ, I can't remember what that card means, I just think, oh, well, it's a number 7, it means that. And it generally, at the time, sort of works.
How could we relate court cards to timings?
I don't.
Or you wouldn't, yeah.
Well, each court card is also
an element.
One element, and it's 30 degrees of the sky. So it's not exactly one zodiac sign, but it's actually like a mix of 2. So it's another, astrological.
Yes, plus there's the not the ambiguity, it's the ambivalency of it.
Yeah.
They both can be male and female.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that some people tend to see them as they are on paper, on the tarot, like a queen being female, but I think sometimes, depending from the reading, it can be both.
The elements can be a giveaway, like fire and air might be like soon, and earth might be like, oh, take a while to come, sort of thing,
But it's also quite challenging for me, because as a general rule I don't really use timings as such, apart from the very, very loose spring, autumn, winter of the suits. But I find that the more I read and the more questions are related to timings. I mean, in my personal experience, the worst, not in a bad way, was when I was actually working on the psychic lines, because it's fast and you've got to sing, and a lot of the questions were about timings. And that's when I started thinking, hold on a minute, how do other readers do it? They must have it, because you've got to give an answer. Clients are there, so you can't just, sit and not say anything. And then I adopted this, and my intuition, I think I agree a lot with you on that. You just kind of into it, if it's going to be
Someone
fast
would
or
just-
not.
coming to mind saying 3 days or 3 weeks, and
Or
just
no,
keep saying-
it's not going to happen, or it's not going to
Yeah.
happen. I remember I did a reading for a friend not a few weeks ago, and I was like, yeah, I know you want to do this now, but it's not going to happen now. I can't tell you exactly, but at least like 9 months. And it turned out that was the case. But regardless, I feel that sometimes going with your intuition is the best way, if you read intuitively. If you don't, like, for example, Andrew doesn't, then you're using more practical.
Well, I've seen people just use the visuals. Like if there's a lot of green, they'll be like, "Oh, it might be spring."
And
I've seen
by
that done.
what? By what? Oh, what's the word? Green. But what do you mean?
Like I remember someone, they're like the Queen of Cups card, and then there's lots of like vegetation in the corner, and then she used that visual as say spring, or maybe like the scene is very dry, maybe she would probably say summer, something like that.
So you think if you see a lot of yellow, you're thinking summer.
Yeah, yeah,
You see
The
a
trouble
lot.
with that, though, it's very depth dependent.
yeah.
Yeah, as well.
That's very true. So.
I mean, think the Rider Waite is all yellow, so it's all in summer. It's pretty much all of it is yellow. And another question that came to my mind while I was researching this, and again, is stepping a little away from tarot, but I think, and I met a lot of people in this group that also use oracle cards together with tarot or independently. And that's even more difficult because, for example, angel cards or even Lenormand, any other system, hasn't really got the timing built into it.
when I use the angel cards and read it in one of the books, the instruction books, I read it as like it's in blocks of 3 months. So you put like for one, like the past, 3 months ago, present, and then 3 months, 6 months, 9 months,
From now.
12 months, yeah. And that's how I've taken it, and I've just used all the cards together, just sort of doing that. Especially if you're doing like a year or 6 month spread for someone, you can use the cards each month, the tarot cards each month, and then if you want more information, go to the angel cards, and we'll do one for now, and then one for 3 months and 6 months.
But generally, in your personal experience, by reading for yourself and others, what kind of results have you gotten? Positive, just negative, in between? Was
Well,
it correct?
someone predicted something for me in spring, and it happened in February 2 years later.
At least it happened.
February gets close enough to spring, but
It is almost.
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 That's a good point, because I mean, if the answer is spring,
Yeah.
then obviously it needs clarification. It's going to happen during springtime, but which spring?
Yeah.
You don't have to ask for it then.
But then you'd have to elaborate and ask which spring, and that's where it gets tricky and difficult.
Because it's especially troublesome if it's like I think YouTube is saying you limit your own time frame. Like every reading you do, you say within 6 months, but then the cards have their own idea of
Well, in
sometimes.
the case of the reading I did from a friend,
Uh-huh.
it was standing out in the reading that it wasn't going to happen,
Okay.
because she wanted something in the next, I think it was 3 months to happen, and I'm like, I think you will get some results, but it's definitely not going to be, not from the cards, at least for a year. I thought, okay, Safari hasn't happened, but I hope, but it's like I said, it's not an exact science. It's very,
I
think you've got a point, because obviously tarot is not immediately kind of in, but astrology is.
Yeah.
Isn't it? That's it's based. I'm not an expert in astrology, but
Well,
they seem to be complementary, using them both together.
Well, it's
you know?
it's kind of tacked on by different systems. So everyone has their own idea of which card is which thing.
Yeah.
But depends what do you ascribe it to. But there's some people have a problem with astrology. They just don't like it, or they can't get their head around it, or they can't be bothered to learn it, and all sorts of reasons. You know, that's a problem with that.
Do you,
idea.
what deck do you?
I use a Thoth. So astrology is built
Okay.
into it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, so like you have the actual symbol of the
Yes,
sign,
you know,
and
yeah,
then
you
so
know
you
exactly
see,
what it is.
okay, so you see the patterns. It's easier. with
Have we
this.
done a meetup about timings with astrology? I don't think we have.
I could do it. Well, maybe it's too soon. For
No, I
this
know
week.
it's too soon for next time, but we could do that maybe.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we have done it, but if you know, I really don't know much. I know just the basics.
It's all you need, really. As long as you know which signs to do with, you know, which month. It's kind of what you need.
Yeah, but if you base it by months, so for example, Gemini May, that tells you just that.
Well, if you remember, it's the cutoff point is the 20th of every month,
Yeah.
and then that's when you change between sign to sign. So, but then that depends on whether you use Vedic or Western.
Yeah, as well.
That's another. I think astrology is so again it's so varied, you know. Even within astrology, it's yeah. And then when you try and tack it onto tarot, and there's so many different opinions.
Then do you use the adjacent cards to sort out whether it be earlier in the month or later in the month or in the middle?
Well, if you like for the minors, because you have you have 3 cards for each sign for the minors, right? And then that's different parts of the month.
Okay.
You know, again, you have to really know astrology to get it, but.
Yeah. I better buy a book.
But like say if I get let's say I get Temperance and the Knight of Wands and let's say the Nine of Wands, you know, all of them are Sagittarius cards within like a 10-card reading. I was like, okay, probably December, you know, that's how I do it
I
anyway.
don't know. You would say probably December, not like
Yeah.
December for sure.
Well, I can say
Well, you could.
the second week of December because the Nine of
Once
Wands.
again, it needs a clarification.
Yeah,
Not just December, but which
Yeah.
December. I mean, by default, time is always going to be a qualifying question. It can never be a question unto itself. You know, am I going to be rich? If so, how long? You know, before I am. You know, you can't skip the other way round. You know, otherwise there's no answer. You know? Am I going to be rich?
I think what I'm going to try and do for the next couple of weeks or so, because I've got a house to myself, which is great because I've got silence. I'm going to see if I can look into the idea of making up a spread based on the grand tableau. I've got to think, because
Well,
you
you can
can't
try
use
it now.
78 cards is way too many. Now, I just want to think, how to, well, you can try if you want, but it's got to have a system to it, because you have to have a significator coming out at some point. If I can, or whatever, I'll have a look, or if anyone else comes up with anything.
How would you do that? Would you just take all the major
I don't know,
corners
that's the
out, or just do it on the minor?
I don't know, you'd have to use the whole deck, but you'd have to find a way to have a significator that actually appears in the spread at whatever position without using all 78 cards. Because it's not just, if you're at home, you could probably get away with doing the 78 cards, but if you're doing a reading for someone, it's impractical, it's just too many cards. And if you take out the significator prior, that defies, that completely, it's not the object of because you just put it in there, where what you want is for it to come out in a particular position, and you go, oh, look, she's very far away, so maybe it's going to be in a while. Oh, look, she's very closer to it. So, but that'd be interesting.
I'd just like to ask about the angel cards. I thought certain angels are associated with certain times of the year.
They are.
Like the archangels
days
are the,
as well.
are the days, yeah. And so.
I believe Sunday's Michael, and
I don't know, is it? Zadkiel's Thursday, I know that.
Uriel is it Wednesday?
Uriel's the one, the Earth.
Raphael
Angel.
is.
I don't know, I've never.
No, yeah, they are associated. I've actually got a book that gives you all the association for hours, not only just.
So
That's going to be very difficult to read intuitively, especially if you're on like the
Yeah.
psychic channel or something, like,
Mm.
which angle is 4 o'clock?
Oh, I forgot what the 4 o'clock is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yes, they have associations, daily, monthly, and also hourly,
Yeah. Oh,
and astrological associations as
Yeah.
well, I believe.
yeah.
So that would make it a bit complicated. It would make you to actually go out and work it out, literally, like you would do for a chart, for an astrological
Yeah.
chart, pretty much. It wouldn't be, as Chiro was saying, intuitive. It would be something you need to work out.
Mm.
So maybe we should all experiment and practice, and actually keep a note. Like if you have a question in mind, or a friend has a question in mind, use whatever method you think is appropriate. Keep a note, because if you're like me, then you'll forget otherwise. And then see if it comes to pass. I mean, obviously, if it's something too much in the future, then that might be a bit difficult, depending on who and what the reasoning is for. But if it's something like, you know, I had an interview, or I've applied for interviews, will I get one in the next 3 months? Something like that. And it might be to see, because, okay, my experience, when I followed the normal timings, even when I was looking, and I've been currently looking for another job, and I've been doing on and off readings, like 3-5 cards, to see what timings, and to me it came out all wrong. Now, I don't know if it's me reading it wrong. I don't know if it's because something hasn't come to pass, or the cards are not telling me because I'm not supposed to know. But so far when I have asked, I actually got an interview and the card said I wouldn't get it within that particular, and I got a reply the following week. So to me it was like, why are you telling me that I'm not getting it? Because usually I don't get that. I might not understand it then, but when it happens then I understand what the card was saying. But in this case they were actually saying, no, you're not getting it. It's not going to happen in the next week, and it did. So unless the answer related to the outcome, which was I didn't get the job, but that's not what I was asking. So I would
Maybe
think
that's what the cards meant, though.
Maybe.
It wasn't what you were asking.
it wasn't what I asked, because you know, as it goes, when you ask a question, you have to be pretty specific, so you
Yeah.
don't get a confused answer. And maybe I did not get the job, so maybe that's why the no. But that's not what I was asking. So it would be interesting to get feedback if you know, if you practice or if you do anything, if you had positive or negative results for yourself and for others. Statistically, probably you do. There are some statistics that you would and you wouldn't. But if you constantly get a no answer and then it happens, then obviously there's something there that is not quite right. In terms of maybe you reading the cards or the tarot giving you a mixed answer, because
They didn't think
sometimes also, following on what you just said, it could be that you're asking specific questions, but your mind is on the outcome.
Yeah.
So you're asking, will I get this interview I've applied for, because it's important to you, but then I'm thinking, I really want that job, I really want that job.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the cards are going, no, you're not, meaning you're not going to get the job, possibly.
Anton, what I saw at the Reader Studio in New York was someone had, I forget what the spread was, but anyway, there was a generic spread that kind of established an event that required an additional question, i.e. timing. And to establish the timing, she did another 3-card mini spread specifically to try and zoom in on the time point. Does that make sense? It made sense to me. You know, there's a general larger spread
To have an
and that
outlook.
defined, as I said, the event that the query wanted clarification in terms of timing, and then there's a separate little deal of 3 cards, I believe, and that established the time point.
That was the specification.
Yeah, so then it wasn't just Sagittarius, but Sagittarius, OVNIC, whatever it had to be, and that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a whole deck, but it seemed to be able to pinpoint. But she did another 3 cards for another clarification, not of timing. So that, as I say, is a main spread, and then little side spreads to
With the
be
same depth.
specific, yeah, with,
Yeah,
the,
with the same.
with the remaining depth.
Well,
parts of
yeah.
it.
Interesting.
Mm.
I have to try and find out. Is there any? Was that posted somewhere? Or?
No, I was literally there, and
Oh.
I was allowed to talk that. Look over the shoulder.
Mm.
Yeah, that's. I'd like to go back to New York for the Reader Studios, maybe 1 year.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like about 300 people, so there's readings going on everywhere, in the lobby, in the bar, restaurant.
New York, to be honest, even in terms of affordability, is better from here. Because I looked into going at Bats, the one in San Francisco, and it was like £2,000 just for the 4 days.
Reader Studio is more.
Yeah, Reader Studio is
has
much more
people there.
accessible. Yeah. I mean, getting to New York from here is not too bad. I mean, not
Yeah.
too expensive, but San Francisco is kind of a bit out the way. But yeah, so practice if you want. I mean, what time is it? Because we've been
It's about
waffling on.
5.
Yeah, it's about an hour. So if you want to practice now, or make up spreads, you're welcome. I didn't make up any exercises because I didn't quite know how it was gonna develop and go. So, and also it's not a fixed topic. So if you want to practice, that's absolutely fine. If you don't want to practice, feel welcome to stay and chat and do other readings. And that's it.
Thanks, Anton.
Can I ask a favour of Chiro, if you don't mind?
Huh?
Can I-
Yes, what, sorry?
Can I ask a favour? Could we have a group picture?
Oh,
Sure.
Do
yay.
you mind?
Cool.
You want me to take a photo of that for you?
No, I want to
No.
with you.